Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Localization Fireside Chat and podcast. My name is Robin Ayub. I am the founder of the platform, Localization Fireside Chat. And for those who are not familiar with me, I'd love to get to know you. Feel free to drop by my LinkedIn profile and connect with me, and let's have a conversation. Today, I am joined by an exciting guest, Michelle Lopez. And Michelle is 30 years experience in the industry, in the technology primarily, and the localization industry. In 2004, he founded e2f. e2f specializes in data collection, data annotation for linguistic AI and continuous translation, and develops its own fully configurable AI data annotation platform. Michelle, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the episode. Good to have you with me this morning. And if you don't mind, Michelle, let's get started. And I want to tell the audience that you and I have been connected for many years now on LinkedIn, and that's my first time actually talking to you. And this is what this platform has afforded me, the opportunity to meet people that I have not yet met before, and to have a conversation with interesting individuals such as yourself with a very successful background in aspects that relates to our industry. So, Michelle, why don't we get started in telling people about yourself a little bit?
Thanks, Robin. Yes, I think we have been to countless conferences in the industry for over 20 years or almost 20 years. And I think, this is the first time we meet. I think we must have been to different conferences over the years. So to talk about myself, again, my name is Michel Lopez. I live in Florida here. I grew up in France, as probably my accent makes obvious. And I graduated in 86 with a master's degree in computer science and AI, which was at the time a word that very few people have heard of. And then I went out to teach AI in universities, first in Saudi Arabia, then in Thailand. Then I started a software company in Thailand, in Bangkok, that I ran for like 5 years, and then joined an international company that was kind of one of the precursors of e-commerce. Worked for them as a technical manager for Asia in Bangkok, then in Hong Kong. They then offered me to move to the head office in Mountain View, California. And I did that for 2 years until they let me go. So, which, welcome to the American life. And then by that time I had done software for about, I would say, like almost 15 years. And I decided that I was done with it. I was done with software. I wanted to try something else. So I tried a few ventures in completely different fields, including finance, including even trying to open a restaurant, including many different things, importing Asian foods for a while. And nothing really worked. But I had a bunch of friends who were translators, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to try out." And they were like, "Come on, Michel, you're not because you speak English and French, it means you can be a translator." But I thought I could, so I tried, and I was kind of pretty successful quite quickly as a translator, to the point that I had too much work, and then decided to open a company and work with other translators. And then the company was called e2f, still is, because we were focusing on English to French translation. So we did that for a number of years. Started opening offices around the world so we could manage a 24/5 English to French translation services, to mainly for very large translation companies, including Lionbridge. But what happened is, after a few years, we became the largest English to French translation company worldwide. And then when there was no growth available anymore, so that was the first pivot that we had to do. So we pivoted to becoming more like a regular LSP, working with end clients and managing initially 10 to 20 languages, then expanded. But because of my technology background, we was interested by continuous localization, automating the process of translating apps and websites on a regular basis. So we did that for a while. And what happened, so that was the first pivot. But then what happened is, one of the very large tech companies reach out to us first for translation into French of their product, and then later for on-site work, meaning recruiting linguists from different languages, different countries, then bring them on site. So that was our first venture in kind of staffing. So that was the kind of the second pivot of the company. And so that we expanded in several locations, including having our own offices with, maybe 100 people working for one of the large tech companies, having people on site in the US, in Germany. So that was, I would say, the second pivot. But what happened during that time, that client also starting to ask us to annotate AI data, which was kind of our first foray into this world. And that was probably like 6-7 years ago. And this is when we started to realize that behind the scene, all those large high-tech companies were building very big AI models for all sorts of things, and that they actually needed companies like us to do the annotation. And so that was kind of the third, I would say, pivot of the company. And when another large tech company reached out to us to build data sets, then we decided, all right, this is what we need to do. And that was probably like 4 years ago now. And at that time, the only way that there was no real tool available to really build that data sets that they were needed for speech and text. So we decided to build our own tool. So we build our own data collection, data annotation platform, which is a kind of a workflow base and with a lot of modules, so we can handle speech, including audio segmentation, transcription, validation of speakers, validation of content, generation of content in different ways, and also annotation of text for more like text project where you need to annotate or label content, string, anything. So that's what we've been doing in the last 4 years. And now we are working in quite a lot of things, including, again, ASR, speech recognition, where we build data sets and annotate data sets for, anything, including call center conversation in Japanese or medical conversations in Danish or whatever. So this is for ASR and NLU. So for NLU, natural language understanding, we annotate all those conversations to help our clients figure out what are the entities, the relationship with entities within a conversation, so they can really start to understand more, not only what the person says, but also the meaning of what they say. Then we do search relevance for large search engines. We want to make sure that the answer matches the question that was posed by the user. What else we are doing? And then I would say in the last year or so, the focus of pretty much everybody in the industry is around LLM, large language models. So we do a lot of work in this area now as well. So, and I forgot, which is relevant here, MT, machine translation, where we also built data sets for large machine translation engines. So that's one more pivot. Yeah,
that's a great story. I mean, to unpack this, it will take me a couple of days to discuss it, but I'm just trying to try to unpack it in the remaining hour that we have together. So, I have a curious question. You mentioned early on when you started teaching AI and when you studied AI, it was different than what we have today in terms of AI. So today AI is, in our world, is seen as the language related AI, translation in, AI get embedded into MT, get embedded into NLP or any other data set collection, et cetera. So what was it like back then versus now? And how do you see, I'm sure there's a huge shift. What was it back then like? What were you teaching in terms of AI? The concept?
Actually, no. I mean, you could already do a few things. So actually in 85, 86, my master's degree thesis was on a communication system with a mobile robot, all right, with an autonomous mobile robot. So you would say like, this is the kind of thing that people are doing today. But yes, so I was working in a firm that was developing robots that were autonomous, had their own batteries, had their own intelligence. Of course, they were very primitive, but and what my part of the project was to build a small system where the user could type in natural language instructions for the robot. So my system would process the natural language, understand the meaning, and send an order to the robot. So it's pretty much the kind of thing that you see now. Except in my case, I would understand like maybe 10 types of sentences, like, please turn left, please turn right, or that was in French, but the equivalent. And then that robot also had sensors, so I could ask, where is the closest object? And the robot will tell me, oh, this is in this direction at this distance. So it sounds like a huge application at the time. That's what people are doing today. Again, the difference is that the computers were huge. The processing power was very limited. So you could do the same kind of application that people are doing now, but at a much, 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 much smaller scale. At the time, we had also applications around simple detection of objects in images, right? So I remember my friend was building a system that could differentiate on a production line between a red apple and a green apple, so that that would command a sorting mechanism to sort apples. So that was working at the time. So I'm talking about unfortunately 40 years, almost 40 years ago. But when I taught AI, you'd be surprised, but I was teaching neural networks. So neural networks were existing at the time.
Neural network is nothing new here. It's been around for many years.
Neural networks have been around for a long, long time. So the difference is when we were building neural network at my time, you had 10 neurons. And then if you could manage to have 100, then you had a huge computer. Well, now they have, tens of billions of nodes in the network. So that's completely, so that's the main, there's more than that. There's been mathematical models have been improved, retro propagation. Mechanisms of training neural networks have improved, but the idea has been around for a long, long time. And the concept hasn't evolved too much. It's the mechanisms, algorithms behind have evolved, but the concept, to my knowledge, hasn't changed too much.
The second interesting point in your conversation, in your intro this morning, Michel, and I'm interested to see how you manage this. And one of the things that we talk about always on this channel and the industry in general, especially like with, I think there's like close to 19,000 companies in our industry, according to CSA research, recent data. The transformation that you went through from, you started as an LSB e2f, that's in the name, English to French, and you've transformed the company into developing and delivering services that they're not necessarily tied into translation. They're not at all, actually. You're developing and delivering software solution, you're developing resources solution related to AI, etc. What was the impact on the company? Like, did you have to retrain the individuals that you're working for you? Did you have to rehire, etc.? So can you walk us through that transformation that took place inside of your company?
Yeah, first of all, any transformation of a company is a huge undertaking, right? And what I've done, but it's maybe because it's my personality. I'm a curious person, and I would say I'm more of an entrepreneur than a manager. So at different times of the company's history, when I did identify a need to change or an opportunity to grab some new piece of business, or what I've been doing is leading the change by myself. So instead of trying to get the company to transform, what I've been doing is, creating like a small startup within my company, let somebody else manage the existing business with the existing resources, and then start something new, and maybe bring hire one or two people, persons to help me out, and then progressively bring people or steal people from the old companies, the one that I saw were more aligned with what I was trying to do, and then just bring them around us until the company had moved from the state A to state B. And when you do that, well, people are sorting themselves out pretty easily, because when you launch the startup and you kind of say, okay, I need somebody to help me to do ABC, many people will say, no, I cannot do that. I would rather not, right? And then the adventurous, the more mobile, agile in their head, just will follow you, right? So that's what I've been doing. So having certainly creating, sorting people out between old business and new business. And what's happening as well is at some point, the old business starts to dwindle, right? If you were right. So, I mean, if your idea of a new business was correct, then the old business is dwindling naturally, right? So there's attrition in that business. So, and then there's a growth in the new one. So that's what I've been doing several times. So did we retrain people? Yes. So first of all, we selected people who had the potential to be aligned with the new direction. And then we kind of onboarding them on the new project. So yeah, we have a few people in the company that have been through all those transformations and managed to remain, surfing the wave.
Yeah.
Some of them did not. Some of them, had to retrain or give up at some point. But we have a few. I mean, I have a few people. I won't give names here, but who've been with me for 15 years, and again, still surfing wave after wave of transformation.
You bring a very good point for the audience who are entrepreneur or business development people working for entrepreneurs who are thinking about this conversation and how does it apply to you. I think Michel hit the nail on the head by saying, be curious. And we always talk about that. Be curious. Try to identify if you're interested in what's going on around you. You want to transform your company. You want to find a new opportunity. You want to grow your revenue. The first thing you got to look at, and the first thing I do is try to figure out what is it that I can do. And I can't answer that question unless I have the curiosity in me to allow me to do this. So be curious is number one. And the second thing is, don't be afraid of making small steps. They don't need to be big steps. Small steps, test the idea. And I think that's what Michel did in the beginning of the evolution of the second phase of his business of E2F. Test the idea small, see if it works, and put smaller investment. You're not going to avoid putting investments. The point here is you have to make smaller investments. They don't need to be big to test the idea. A small investment will allow you to test the idea and see if it works. And if it does work, then you can start building on that one. Am I?
And in my case, I like to lead this new efforts. I think it's always dangerous, and you see that in many companies where they have an innovation department somewhere, regardless of the industry, and it is really hard to manage innovation within a company, especially when you reach a certain size. And many projects in innovation centers of large companies are actually failing because they don't get, they have to fight against the rest of the company. They are in a cannibalism. They're afraid to cannibalize. I mean, the rest of the company is afraid to be cannibalized. So I think that, as a CEO or COO of a company, I mean, if you have in the ideal situation, I'd say if you have a CEO and COO, best possible way is to have the COO run the existing business and the CEO kind of go into this innovation mode so that the rest of the company shows that this is the focus and then this is where we need to win. And as we were discussing before this call, that the society is moving so fast that if you don't have management really involved in the innovation, you fall behind.
I lost you, Michel. I lost the audio.
Oh,
You're back
Okay,
now.
I think I need to change my. Let me.
Okay, no worries. That's fine. Take your time.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to. You're gonna have an issue because on the audio because I'm I just by the way.
That's fine. I can hear you well. We can enhance the audio. Don't worry about it. We'll cut that part off. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. So I forgot what I was talking about.
So we were talking about the transformation and how companies, you were talking about CEO, the role and the COO role. And I totally agree with you. Like when you're trying to create something new in an organization, you don't want to forget about what's, where the fund is coming from. It's from the existing business.
Yes.
And that's why you pay attention to this particular, the cornerstone of the business, which is your existing business, to enable you to fund the new idea. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's correct. But as far as focus, if the CEO, everybody is focusing on the existing business, and you have a small group somewhere called innovation or whatnot, focus on the new business, it may be complicated to get those ideas and generated there to really become the focus of the company. So that's why I'm thinking that the CEO needs either to lead that innovation group or to be very, very close to them. And while the COO or somebody else that you trust is running your existing one that is at that time hopefully stable and processized and everything. And the second thing I wanted to mention is actually the values of my company are CARE, C-A-R-E, and the C stands for curiosity. So this is something that we've put at the first value of the company. So we have curiosity, agility, reliability, and empathy. So this is, and then it all makes CARE, which is an easy word to remember, and also
very good
care for your vendors, for each other, for your clients, obviously.
That's very nice motto to live by in an organization, in a world where we are right now, where we live right now, where empathy and caring are very important. And one of the things that I was on a podcast. I do podcasts for other people too. So somebody invited me yesterday to a podcast, and we were talking about it, the leadership. And one of the main aspects of the leadership that everybody agrees on is developing leaders, not followers. If true leaders develop people that become their leaders, basically, not necessarily having assistants and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And through that journey that you're talking about, that caring, that empathy, that that reliability, etc., for internally and externally focusing, I think, and you through your journey, you probably can pinpoint in your mind, I know, what? I think I have like several leaders that I've developed over the years, especially those individuals that have been with you for many years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. Actually, it's interesting that quite a few of the leaders we have in the company now are actually people that join us, later in our life. So maybe this is what you were trying to say earlier, by transforming the company several times, and then you need different type of people. The one who were good for a certain type of role are not necessarily aligned with the new company. So we had to hire new people, and this is what we've been focusing in the hiring process, to hire people who had already been developed or had the potential to become leaders.
I mean, let's face it, we work in an industry where it's very labor intensive. You need people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like truly a software industry where you develop the software once, you copy it many times, you sell it many times, and that's it. You need people to actually service the customer.
Yes. Unfortunately, sometimes, we all wish, I think everybody I know who's running a service company wishes to be selling a product instead, right? Because it's it seems simpler to develop a product. You have high margins, you have the scalability is easier to get and everything.
Mhm.
But I think most of the service companies trying to turn themselves into product companies fail because it's a completely different mindset. And when you look at the way you run a SaaS platform, the way you operate a product-based or platform-based business is completely different from a service business. So yes, unfortunately, you have to accept in the service industry that no, you're not going to make the big margins. You're not going to have the scale, the acceleration, leverage that you can get with product. And it's based on people. It's based on people. It's based on processes. It's based on trying to repeat your process over and over. But each time it's going to be a new client. It's going to be a slightly different situation. You need agility. You need to listen to your client. You need to be able to listen to them and them and what they want, rather than forcing your way of doing things.
Yeah. Now, so if you don't mind, can you talk a little bit about how does E2F market and sell its services? Do you have a sales development team? Do you have a marketing team? How do you go about selling services?
Yeah, we do have a very small marketing team, and we don't have a sales team as such, actually. So this is something that people always find surprising. But we have been on the localization side. We've been developing clients through referrals and account management. So getting leads, not necessarily from our website, not necessarily from sales activity, but mostly from referrals, either from partners or from existing clients. And on the data side, AI data side of the business, which is the largest one now, it's been few people who trusted us working for large tech companies reaching out to us, and us listening to them, delivering what they wanted, and then internally referring us internally again, but to other departments, divisions. And again, always been a combination of referrals and account management for us.
And are you seeing, are you getting the growth you like? Are you achieving your goals? Are you satisfied with the way the company is progressing, even though you don't have a sales team?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we are able to grow our existing clients at a heavy pace. No, in the sense that because of the way the industry is transforming and the company is transforming, there are services, things that we were doing 2 years ago that we were not doing, that have been replaced by new business. So in a way, our new businesses keep growing, but our existing businesses are coming down too fast. So that the growth doesn't look, the top line growth doesn't look as strong as it would. But for example, our data AI business is growing maybe at a 50-60% rate. But because the staffing business disappeared, the top line grows, but not as fast as the actual business. I'm not sure whether I explained that properly.
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, there's two reasons you would have, mind me for saying this, I've been in business development and sales for the past 30 years. You would have sales teams for various reasons, obviously to generate revenue. Mm-hmm. But if your product is selling and your service is selling, then you would have questions to do, to contemplate, do I need salespeople? And if you're happy with the growth, you're happy with the revenue that's being generated, that's fine. But where it comes a little tricky is what you just mentioned, rebalancing the book of business, diversifying the book of business, minimizing risk on the business, plus attracting new customers. Obviously, that comes with the territory. But there is an added benefit of rebalancing the book of business, and diversification in our business is very interesting because every company I've looked at and every company we've talked to, they seem to follow this. And I'm not sure about E2F because I don't know your company intimately yet. But most companies have the same issue where you have 80% of the revenue coming from the top 20 customers. and the rest of the 20% of the revenue comes from, a long tail of accounts, we call them. And I don't know if you guys at e2f have the same issue or not, but that's thematic around our industry.
We are in the same situation, and it's really hard to escape that situation because in our case, and I don't know for others, but in our case, our large clients are really large companies, like very big tech companies. So, and then we have all these long tail small clients. But with our long tail small clients, we maximize the revenue pretty quickly. So you can, as you said before, you can only acquire those like either with aggressive sales or with very strong marketing. But on the company focus tends to be on those one or two very large clients. But those ones, if you service them well, if you do what they want, what they need, they can generate 100%, 200% growth year after year. So for the rest of the company to catch up with your growth of those big whales, it's really complicated. And I don't know whether anybody found the recipe out there, but I mean, our recipe currently has been to have maybe more than one whale, right? Having 2 or 3 or 4 whales, so that at least you spread out the risk. But there's something else though. When you have one of those large whale clients, you actually, yes, it's one name, but it's actually, you work with 10 different departments, 10 different divisions. So each one is really like an individual client. So if you look at it this way, if you have 2 or 3 of the big tech companies, you actually have like 30 or 40 clients there.
Mm-hmm. So how do you, like, I don't know if it applies to you, but how do you manage risk? I've seen it in other companies where, let's say you have one of these big whales, as you call them, and for some reason the relationship, they run an RFP, you don't win it, etc. So you end up losing one of those big whales. That's I hope not, and God forbid you do. But let's say you did, just for the sake of argument, wouldn't that be a risk for your business? And how do you manage that?
Obviously, there would be a risk, right? So but as I said before, when you lose an RFP with one of those companies, it would be a certain RFP isn't in a certain department, right? It doesn't mean that you're not going to keep working with all the others. So this kind of already balances out a little bit. But apart from that, no, I mean, I wish I had the magic way of managing the risk. I mean, the easiest way to do it is just don't work with big whales, right? But then you have to be satisfied with a small recovery. I mean, and I know companies doing that, right? To say, no, I don't want to work with any of the big companies. I don't want to play this game or RFPs and everything. I would rather have only like less business, but more controllable with, smaller size accounts where I'm the only vendor and this is kind of, an ongoing relationship. That's another way to manage business, which is actually what we were doing for many years. For many years, we had mostly mid-sized localization clients, continuous translation, ongoing relationship. And this is kind of a nice way to manage what they call a lifestyle company.
Correct.
But when you start playing with the big whales, then you have to be ready to play at their level with their own rules. And then suddenly, exactly like you said, introduce more risk in your company.
Right, that's right. Now, if you don't mind, let's switch gear a little bit. So we know where we are right now. And since you are in the middle of it, and we talked a little bit about earlier, like business plans don't last 6 months, where do you see technology is taking us, and with the acceleration of development, how's that impacting? Because back in the, when you and I assume you and I, because I think I graduated the same year you graduated, from the same age group. Back in the days, we used to say, development cycle goes for 2-3 years. Now it's like a month, a few weeks in some cases. So where do you see technology taking us next? And what's if you were to have a read on the future, where do you think we're going in terms of evolution, in terms of our services, in terms of your business?
I mean, for us, I'm not going to say anything surprising when I say that LLMs are very likely here to stay and are very likely here to transform many industries, including the localization industry. We are in a way in a interesting position because we are a lot of our business actually helping big tech companies improve, develop, or fine-tune their base LLM models. So we see what they are doing, we see what they are working on, and we are how to say that, we're spending a lot of time on that, and I see that the applications that of LLMs are going to go everywhere, right? To have a general purpose LLM model is extremely powerful. So how much is it going to replace localization, translation? Probably to a big extent. And I mean, some companies out there have both LLMs and MT engines that are already extremely powerful. LLMs are becoming or are going to become relatively easy to customize, to fine-tune. This is actually one of the tracks of our company currently. So we are, as I said before, we are working with builders of LLMs to help them refine their base model, but we are also working with just mid-sized companies to help them implement, customize, fine-tune an LLM for a specific application. What we see is there's going to be more and more cases where you don't have to go through localization anymore, right? So if, as a company, say, assuming you're a SaaS platform and you want to launch a new service that is text-based and you want to launch it simultaneously in different countries, you're probably going to use an LLM as your foundation and generate content independently for each language. Why would you go through a translation process?
Mm-hmm.
Big brands may feel that this is going to dilute their brands, but not necessarily. So this is what they are talking about now. Right? Does it make sense anymore to translate when you want to go from English to Spanish? Why don't you just generate content
in Spanish?
And with a proper use of LLM, you can imagine some applications that are going to be very powerful. For example, you could imagine a website where the contents that you see as a user is generated on the fly. So rather than having a static website, right? For example, for a product description. Now, if you go to a website for a product description, if you see in English, you see the text that has been developed by the marketing person in English. If you go to the Spanish website, this text has been translated enough for Spanish, right? But now imagine that this website decides that they will use the parameters that they know about the user. For example, they know not only that you are in the US, but they know that you are male, right? They could show you a product description in English, but where a ChatGPT LLM type model would know that, oh, for male, I'm going to present the text a certain way because it resonates better with male population. If you're a female, you would see a slightly different description. And now if you are in Spain, not in male, well, you're going to get a Spanish male. But the way you would do that with LLM is you have a product definition which is done in English once, and then you dynamically prompt your custom model to generate on the fly with information about both the user, their location, the style guide of the company, etc., a description that would fit not only the company but you at the same time. Where's translation in there?
Yeah, and this is part of that whole customer experience that everybody keeps talking about. How do we make sure that the customers are receiving the best experience when they come into a digital environment to exchange with retail or consumer of some sort?
And it seems that the linguistic inputs, the knowledge of all the linguists around the world is going to be more used to customize, fine-tune
The LLM?
than it is going to translate the text. You
Right.
don't need to do that. There's going to be still maybe some post-editing, but probably not, because as a company, once you deploy, as a brand, once you deploy this kind of model on your website, you're not going to need translation anymore. But what you may need evaluation, right? So you would say that, maybe the translators, or maybe there won't be translators anymore. Their job will be to evaluate, randomly some pages generated by the website for some situation, and grade them, right? Was it accurate? Was it well defined? Was the style this and this and that? And then using this information, you can keep fine tuning your engine to get, increasingly better results. So that's what I think is going to happen, and I don't see the translator there.
So I was always under the belief that we human in the middle, and on my blog I always talk about that hybrid model, technology and human interacting together and forming the future, if you will. Until a couple of days ago, somebody hit me on Twitter telling me I'm a translator. I lost my job because of AI, and so that goes to what you were saying earlier. If you don't see the translator in the process, that means some translators, although there's not many of them in comparison to the content that we're trying to translate around the world, we need a lot more translators, and that's why the AI and large language models are taking place, because translation industry cannot take all the content that needs to be translated and do it in an old-fashioned way of being translated. So that individual really pointed it to me that I lost my job because of AI. And here's me, I was advocating all the time that no translator, because we don't have enough of them. There will always be in the middle trying to fine tune the models, trying to, make sure that the quality of what we're producing from a technology perspective satisfactory to the customer. Which brings me to the next topic where, I'm hearing a lot about, that whole idea, the philosophical debate around, I want to achieve speed, I want to achieve low cost translation, and I want to achieve some sort of an accuracy in my translation. It's being sacrificed to the degradation of quality. Some people are talking about, okay, so I'm getting it fast, I'm getting it cheap, fine, but the quality is not what it used to be anymore. What's your comments on this?
Actually, what we see, because we do a lot of that, is the quality. How to say that? The quality is being displaced to the translation engines, right? Or to the LLMs. So all those LLM engine builders in general, their focus is on quality, right? So and we are spending a lot of time helping them improve the model, but qualify the models, right? So I believe that the focus is still going to be on quality, but it will be in terms of evaluation of what has been created by the machine and how to re-inject that to keep fine-tuning the model. I do not believe that companies are going to keep going through a translation, whether machine translation and post-editing model for too long. I believe they are going to be more of generated by LLM or machine translation, evaluate the quality, and then retrain, fine-tune the model until the quality keeps improving. So I think the quality is going to be more tuning, more changing the parameters, changing the model, and less on a human taking something and making it final. I don't see that happening for too long.
You believe then, Michel, that we do have in place right now all the tools from a technology perspective to eventually down the road, as we continue, as you said, tweaking the technology and improving it, to arrive to a place where we're saying, I am producing quality according to customers' expectation or the consumer expectation, the consumer of the content expectations?
It looks to me that it's happening. There's always going to be, a small discrepancy between perfect quality and the quality that is provided by the engine. But I believe, like from a business standpoint, it is going to keep making more sense to improve your model, to keep getting in like 1% extra, 2% extra of quality. Is probably going to be a best investment for the companies to keep building their model, that to invest at the edge by having humans trying to get this extra percent for each text. Right? I believe that is going to be, from a business standpoint, I think that one makes more sense for companies.
Absolutely. Now, as we move along,
you're talking about those people losing their job. I mean, maybe they should consider changing their job, right? Because in order to fine tune models, and I'm talking with, we are talking with, I won't say names, but with, high level people in several translation engine and LLM engine companies. They are extremely concerned with evaluation of quality, right? They realize that to fine-tune a model, you need to have excellent linguistic expertise to guide the model towards best possible translation, right? And who is best than translators to have them doing that? So the best translators have a lot of work to do in engine fine-tuning, because their expertise, their cultural, their linguistic sensibility is what is required to improve an engine.
and I do believe that also there is, I don't want to throw another in-depth topic that we can talk about for a day here, is the academic portion, right? So the academic part where, universities are still graduating translators. Usually the academia is the last one to catch up. And I'm not saying that to be negative to the academia, as I think we have to do some transformation there as the industry is being transformed. Those individuals graduating from linguistic degrees, they need to be up to speed on the latest that's going on in our industry. And I find over time that there is a gap. There's a gap between when that individual is graduated and entering into the workforce, being a translator, to the status that we have right now in our industry. You're talking about AI, language models, etc. And the individual coming to university saying, what is this?
Yeah. I think nowadays, if you graduate with a translation degree and you expect to be a translator, you're seriously in the wrong, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, there's still going to be small jobs, maybe like the small restaurant down the street who wants their menu, translated appropriately in 5 languages. This kind of job is probably still going to be available. A lot of small companies who don't have the means or really the needs to install an LLM and everything, maybe working with translators here and there, but this is going to become like really a minority at the border. So if you're a translator, you're interested in languages, you're interested in multiple languages, in culture, I do suggest that you also get interested in technology, become very competent on language evaluation metrics and things of this nature, because this is what is going to be needed to keep improving the models and get those little by little, those extra % of quality that are still differentiating from the machine output and the human output.
That's right. So as we wrap up our conversation, I still have one more point I would like to run by you. Now, you've had a very interesting career from beginning to where you are right now. If you don't mind, hopefully it's not, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but if you were to reflect back and think about it from, if I had to do it all over again, how do I do this? Do you have any thoughts on this, or you would do exactly where you are right now, or do you do it differently?
I have no idea. I mean, as I said, when I started my life, I was looking for adventure, right? And I didn't know what it meant. So to me, it was like, okay, going around the world. And I've done that. I've been living around the world. So this part I would not change. And then I realized along my journey that I was also an entrepreneur, which I had no idea when I was in school, right? And then, yes, I would probably be an entrepreneur. So what's exactly in what fields, in what country, I don't think it's very relevant.
No.
So I could have picked a number of journeys, I think, from my standpoint, providing that I would have been able to explore the world and then, touch different industries and learn from different people, different things. It's, again, like going back to curiosity. Curiosity doesn't mind where it goes. It's equally curious about everything.
That's right. That's right.
You see what I mean?
No, I know. I know exactly what you mean. A lot of times, I neglected to tell you this, but I'm also an immigrant to Canada. I came in, in the early 90s to Canada. I come from Lebanon, and did the journey that I need to do, and here I am right now. That's a different topic for a different day, but it's an honor and pleasure to have you with me today, Michel. I hope one day I get to see you face to face and shake your hand and maybe have a beer together.
Thanks, Robin. And keep going to conferences, and I will keep going to conferences. At some point, maybe at the same one.
And absolutely, and you're always welcome on this channel. Like if any of your leaders in E2F wants to come in and talk specifically about a specific topic, happy to host them. Happy to do this. It's something I do. It's not sponsored by anybody. It's not sponsored by my current employer. It's my personal initiative. And the reason I started this is because, like you, and like many people I've met in this industry, we do have lots of passion for this industry. And having worked for it for 20 odd years, I feel like I need to contribute. And here's my contribution to the industry. So thanks again for being part of this conversation today. Any final thoughts before we stop the recording?
No, I think that's very interesting. And I'm, again, curiosity first. Be curious, learn. The world is changing very fast. So
that's right.
If you're not curious and able to adapt, then it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Hey, I want to thank everybody for joining me today on this episode with an interesting conversation with Michel Lopez from E2F. If you want to find out more about E2F, you can go to their website, e2f.com. And I highly recommend having a conversation with E2F if you have any AI needs or any large language models, as Michel was talking about earlier, or if you have any translation needs to contact